Well, hello, and thank you for joining me this evening for tea time. My name is Miss Lauren, and I'm one of the children's librarians here at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library, and I'm so glad to see you tonight. Before we get started with our delicious tea spread, I would like to talk a little bit about tea. I hope you had a chance to pick up your grab-and-go kit from the Half Hollow Hills Community Library at our Chestnut Hill location, and I'll explain to you what's inside your kit a little bit later on. But first, we're going to have a little discussion and learn a little bit about tea. Has anyone ever had tea before? Have you drank tea from a fancy cup? Excellent. All right. Well, tea is one of the most popular drinks in the world. People make tea by boiling water and pouring it over dried leaves. There's lots of different varieties of tea. There's black tea, green tea, oolong tea. The different types of leaves are treated differently when you make different types of tea. So people first drank tea in China, and this was thousands of years ago. Today, most of the tea leaves that we drink are from China, India, Indonesia, Kenya, and Sri Lanka. And teas grown in different countries have different tastes. So a tea that you have from China might taste different than a tea that you drink from Indonesia. You can drink tea hot, or sometimes people like to have iced tea. You can drink tea cold, and you could also add different flavors to your tea or different sweeteners. So some people like to add sugar. You can add milk, honey, anything you'd like from into your tea. So today we're not only learning about tea and etiquette, but we're also celebrating Queen Elizabeth II's birthday. Have you heard of Queen Elizabeth? Queen Elizabeth II is the Queen of the United Kingdom and 15 other Commonwealth realms. Her full name is Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, and she was born in London on April 21st, 1926. So we're going to be celebrating her 95th birthday pretty soon, which is pretty cool. Her father became King of England in 1936 when Elizabeth was 10 years old. So Elizabeth became the next in line for the throne. So a fun fact is that Queen Elizabeth's favorite tea is called Earl Grey tea, and she drinks it with just a splash of milk. So tea first arrived in Britain in the 1650s. That's a long time ago. And it's said that in Britain they drink about 100 million cups of tea a day. That's a lot of tea, 100 million cups. Wow. Okay, so now we're going to learn a little bit about etiquette. Do you know what etiquette means? Etiquette is very similar to manners. So saying things like please and thank you, not interrupting someone when they speak, or not calling people by mean names. These are all really important. So when you're at the kitchen table or in a restaurant, there's certain rules that we follow too. Like not eating with our mouth full of food. We don't like to do that. Or there's certain foods that we don't eat with our hands. We eat with a knife or a fork or a spoon. So when we set the table at home or when we eat in a restaurant, there's a special way that we can set the table. So in your grab-and-go kit is a little card. It looks a little similar to this one. So you'll see a dinner fork, a napkin, a dinner plate, a dinner knife, dinner spoon, and a water glass. So those are things that you a lot of times see on your table when you're at home or at a restaurant. So this is a special way that you can set your table. There are other types of table settings. There's something called a casual table setting. There's also a formal table setting when you go to a really fancy restaurant or have a really fancy dinner in your home. The basic table setting is good to have in your home. You don't need anything too fancy, but if you like fancy, that's okay too. This card is just a great way to help to remember where you put everything on your table. It's a nice little stand so you can place it on your table at home so you remember. A fun little reminder that I learned of where you place your table settings or where you place special things on your table is you make this shape of a circle, kind of like an OK. And you're going to do the same thing with your other hand. So 2 OKs. Now, if you notice, it kind of makes the shape, this one, sort of the shape of a D, the letter D. It's a little bit opposite. And this one is the shape of a letter B. So you'll notice for yourself, if you do this on your left hand, you'll see the shape of a B, and on your right hand, you'll see the shape of a D. So a great way to remember where to put your drink on the table, which starts with the letter D, would be on your right side. Just like that. And then sometimes we have a bread plate or bread on our table, which is in a separate area. And that is gonna go where the B is. So we're gonna make a B and our bread will be on our left side. So again, D for drink on our right side and B for bread on our left side. And that's just a fun little trick to learn where the plates go. Sometimes there's a lot of plates and a lot of utensils on the table if you go somewhere fancy or if you go to a wedding, and sometimes it's confusing to know which ones belong to you and which ones belong to the person next to you. So that's just a fun trick to learn whose drink that belongs to and whose bread that belongs to. Okay, so in your kit we have some really fun table settings. So you have a napkin inside of your kit. You have a plate, a dessert plate where you put special desserts. So I have some cookies on my plate because I love cookies. And you also have a saucer and a teacup. So we learned a little bit about tea and what different flavors there are of tea. But a lot of times when we hear about tea, so I have my teacup that came in my kit. I also have a special friend here today. You might recognize this little guy and his mom. So I'm gonna pour my tea, making a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. It's important to have a saucer. That's why we use a saucer under our teacup so that we don't make a mess on the table like I just did, but that's okay. So I poured my tea into my cup and now I'm ready to drink. You might have heard sometimes that people say you should drink with your pinky out, like that. But did you know that that's not really proper etiquette? When you drink tea, you should make sure that your pinky is tucked in. Sometimes because the teacup is small, there's the temptation to pinky out. But that's not the proper way to drink your tea. Make sure your pinky is tucked in tight. So now I'm going to enjoy my tea. I'm going to enjoy my cookies. I'm going to make sure I have my table setting ready to go so that when I have a tea party with my friends, I can make sure my table is set properly. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I want to thank our friends from World Book Kids and the BBC for helping me to share that important information I did about tea and about the Queen with you. And I hope you learned a little bit about tea time etiquette, and about Queen Elizabeth today. This was a lot of fun. I'm so glad you joined me. If you'd like to send pictures of your tea party or your table setting, we'd love to see it. Send those to childrens@hhhlibrary.org. We'd love to see those photos. Thank you so much for joining me. We hope to see you at the library soon. Take care and cheers. Bye-bye.